Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the second dev server for updates 1.97, and it's time to have a look at a new wheelie boy for Sweden. This is the USH405, and well, it looks like a monster because it is. It has two 81mm Oerlikon Type 37 8 DLA launchers on it, and what these launchers fire are something very interesting. They fire a heat rocket, I suppose, is the way to put it. These things seem to be very much rocket propelled, and you can see that they penetrate 330mm 286 and 165, and you only have 18 of them. Once you're out of those 18, you're done. You don't have any more, and you have to go and reload. There's also only a crew of 2, as you can see, driver and commander, and obviously not a lot of armor to really write home about. 10mm overall on the front, so this thing's going to get machine gunned to death, and then on the side 8mm, and then on the booty 8mm and 6 on the top. Good luck against aircraft, they're going to absolutely annihilate you. Looking at the engine of this machine, since it's only 5.7 tons, not a surprise to only see a 90 horsepower one in there, with access to a transmission, which gives it 6 gears, 73 kilometers an hour, and 2 gears going backwards for 9.2 kilometers an hour. This is a vehicle which also is not amphibious, so that's something to think about. Obviously it looks like a lot of the Italian vehicles which are amphibious, but unfortunately this thing doesn't float. And when we have a look at the modifications, what is also interesting, this is a very, very light vehicle, but it's a tank destroyer. So it doesn't get access to scouting, it doesn't get access to anything like that, but it does get access to artillery support. What is going on with this vehicle? I don't understand it, because if you look at it, if it's a tank destroyer, it shouldn't get access to artillery support, but it does. And if it's a light vehicle, which it is, it should get access to scouting, but it doesn't. It's very confusing. Anyway, this machine has 10 degrees worth of gun depression on its 2 pipes, and also the reload rate, it says it's 2.6 seconds. We're going to show you why that's wrong. And also it can fire 150 shots per minute. I mean, I suppose if you had that many, and also the turret rotation speed ain't too bad. It's not the best in the world, but, you know, it's good enough. The main thing to understand about this vehicle is it is one of those which is very much just like an explosion to the face, one of those vehicles where you're gonna just run around and be able to smash people in the side. The heavies will never know what is coming. Very similar to stuff like the Scorpion or the Ontos is pretty much the way I see this machine. Looking at the camouflage, you got the tricolor wavy, the bicolor, and then also you have access to a unicolor, which is nice. The tricolor is easily the best out of the 3 ones. You can see that you can make this thing have some wonderful stripes on it, and I'll show you what I mean when it comes to these guns. There is a little bit more than meets the eye. If you have a look at the general stats that it says, it makes you feel like, oh well, it's just another bog standard tank destroyer. Did you see that rocket? And to see how fast it's firing? Do you see how there's no sound on it either? Because it's bugged as all hell. But do you see how fast they are? Yeah. So there's something very odd about this machine. And I'll show it in a restart. So, as I said, once you're out of shots on one side, that side's completely done. And you can see that the fire rate on the side is very, very good. And also, when you have a look at the general muzzle velocity, there's also something weird going on with that too, because of the fact that it seems to be some kind of rocket-propelled machine. The other thing is, it doesn't have any extra armament on it at all, meaning that it has no machine guns, it has no nothing. This thing is just limited to these 2 guns, which fire some kind of rocket-propelled heat thing. So, as you can tell, this machine is just a little bit bonkers. And for some reason, the rockets love to ricochet, as you just saw off that T-26. There's just something weird about it. Like, I don't really understand why it's in the game. Like, I'm all for weird and wonderful vehicles, but this one is just a little bit crazy for me. And maybe that's just because, maybe I don't understand it, maybe I don't know what's going on, and I'm fully in agreement of that. I will definitely say I'm completely confused by the little mouse droid with the 281mm on it. By the way, the guns themselves, they do go 360, so if you want to shoot behind you and shoot and scoot, then you can do. It's definitely something you can do in this little machine. But the speed is a little bit lacking. It would be nice if there was a little bit more speed in this thing. At some point, I'm sure there was plans to. That's normally how these things go. But you can see that these heat rockets, the heat impact is pretty good from these machines, and even when you hit the ammunition and make the KV2 go pop, it always, is fun. And the thing is, this thing is 6.3. Now at 6.3, 6.7, 5.7, that general BR range that people fight in, there's quite a lot of heavy vehicles. There's quite a lot of heavy tanks, T-34, Tiger 2H, Tiger 2P, obviously the Carnarvon is around there, and other vehicles with a little bit more armor. The Centurion comes to mind and all that stuff. And what this vehicle to me represents is that vehicle that you sit in a corner, wait for a barrage of vehicles to go past, and then you just rat-a-tat as hard as you can, try and take out as many as you can, and then eventually get 50 called to death. And as a person who has spaded all of the Italian vehicles, which are a very similar playstyle to this thing, but they do have scouting, remember, this thing doesn't have scouting, I must say, it's very odd to see another vehicle which is kind of a next step into that madness. Because I thought we went pretty far when we added stuff like the Orbital and the R3s, but obviously the Swedes have decided it's not far enough. They want to go even further when it comes to these weird and wacky designs. Now, 10mm of armor just means you're going to get 50 cal to death. This thing might as well not have any armor. The only thing it's going to really stop against is 7.92, and even then, it probably won't. And you'll get bombed to death, you'll get gunned to death from planes, you'll be target numero uno once you kill an individual, and since it doesn't have crazy speed on its side, getting to the nice positions is not going to be the easiest thing to do before you have to try and ambush some of the enemies. So for me, it's just an odd vehicle. It's a weird and wonderful one, which I suppose is nice to see. But the question always is, when it comes to these, will it be able to fit into War Thunder in any way, or is it just going to be one of those vehicles you see once or twice in highlight and meme videos because of, oh lol, so random, oh look at the rockets, isn't that cool, oh look how much damage the rockets do, oh ha 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 lol lol lol, let's move to the next target. And if that's the case, fair enough. To each their own when it comes to these types of vehicles, and I can't, say I'm any really different. There's a lot of these Swedish vehicles I'm looking forward to because they're going to give me different experiences in the game. They're going to give me something which is new. But I don't really see a new experience with this. What I see here is just a worse experience that I garnered while playing the Italian, armored cars. This thing is slower. It doesn't have as much when it comes to overall firepower. I suppose when it comes to its shells, they seem a bit more rocket propelled, and they're also easier to use, just because of the fact that you have to fire them out of the barrels. So maybe that's something different. But you're also missing stuff like scouting and other parts like that. I just wish that there was a little bit more to this vehicle, and I think the way to do it is through scouting. I think if you add scouting to it, then you give it a new dimension, you give it something which it is sadly missing, and I'm fine with tank destroyers in general getting given scouting if it is something that kind of bolsters their performance. The ASU-57 and the ASU-85, technically they didn't need scouting, they're not scout vehicles. But at the end of the day, if it makes it so more people play them and more people get to enjoy them, then why not? Why not have it so these vehicles are entertained and are played by people? And I feel like this vehicle, if we want to take it away from like meme status and actually, get it used, I think what we'll have to do with it is we'll have to set up scenarios where it would be useful to use it in scouting environments. I don't think this thing you will ever use as, a useful vehicle. I think it will just be a way to infuriate the opponent, if I'm quite honest. A way, as I said before, to kill a heavy tank while it rolls past you, or if they don't see you, to move on to a point and just to cause absolute havoc. But sometimes when it comes to these rockets, there is definitely something wrong with them. The fact that, we don't have any sound on them, the fact that they seem to ricochet when they're literal heat warheads, there's just, I don't know, there's just a bunch of very odd stuff with this vehicle. And one thing I do want to try, I should give the HE a go, just to see if the HE is any different. I feel like it probably isn't, but we've got to give it a go anyway. The SSK-032. And it also makes me think, are there any other designs from other countries which are similar to this? Obviously, many went down the recoilless rifle route. I'm wondering how many people went down this route. Probably not a lot, but it may be interesting to see more vehicles like this, to see how people would use them and how people would make them more useful. Instead of just spamming, a bunch of rockets at something, maybe there's some specific way to play them which makes it way more entertaining and interesting. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.